All right, let's talk about that nagging pain right in the front of your shoulder. You know the one. It's also called biceps tendinitis, but we're going to dig into what's really going on and, more importantly, lay out a clear plan to get it under control.
So does this sound like you? You're at the gym, maybe you're just reaching up to grab something from a high shelf, and bam, you get this sharp, specific pain right there. If you're nodding your head right now, then you are definitely in the right place.
Okay, let's get really specific about this feeling. Because it's not just some vague general ache, is it? Nope. It's usually triggered by very particular movements. Let's take a look at some of the most common culprits.
Think about your typical gym session. Reaching behind your back to grab the bar, that deep stretch at the bottom of a bench press or a dip. Ouch. Even just getting under a barbell for a back squat. All of these things pull your shoulder back and put a very unique kind of stress right on that biceps tendon.
To really understand why this hurts, we first have to understand the muscle itself. And trust me, the biceps is way more complex than most people give it credit for. It's not just for making a muscle in the mirror, you know?
So, the biceps brachii, biceps, literally meaning two heads, has a short head and a long head. Now, they both cross the shoulder and the elbow, but here's the key. It's that long head with its tendon that runs right through a groove in the front of the shoulder. That's our troublemaker. That's almost always where this pain is coming from.
And get this. This is pretty wild. To this day, experts are still debating what the biceps' exact job is up at the shoulder. How crazy is that? Yeah, we all know it bends the elbow and turns your palm up, but at the shoulder joint itself, it seems its main role is to just be a helper, a backup stabilizer for the big guys.
Okay, so you've probably heard this called tendinitis your whole life, right? Well, in the medical world, the thinking on this has really changed, and the name we use actually matters a lot for how you should approach recovery. Let's break this down. That itis ending on tendinitis means inflammation. But what the research is showing us, especially in these long-term nagging cases, is that inflammation isn't really the main villain. Tendinopathy is a much better term. It's more of an umbrella that just means the tendon is painful and isn't working right, usually because it's been overloaded for a while.
And hey, it's not just me saying this. A 2015 study put it perfectly clear. So here's the big takeaway. This is so important. We're not dealing with a fire of inflammation. We're dealing with a structure that's overworked and overloaded. And that simple shift in thinking changes everything about how we get it better.
So, if we kind of know what it is, why is it still so notoriously difficult to get a doctor or a physical therapist to give you a straight, confident answer on this one?
Well, it really just boils down to two main reasons why this whole thing can be so tricky to pin down.
First off, those physical tests where they move your arm around to try and make it hurt, they're honestly just not that reliable for singling out only the biceps. And second, this is a big one, biceps tendinopathy rarely shows up to the pain party alone. It loves to bring a friend, and that friend is usually a rotator cuff issue. So it gets really hard to tell who's actually causing the trouble.
But here is the really good news. Even with all that fuzziness around the diagnosis, the actual plan for managing it is surprisingly straightforward. It's a simple two-step process. Now, I said simple, not necessarily easy, but it is powerful. So here's the entire game plan in a nutshell. Step 1, we have to calm things down. We do that by modifying the activities that are making it angry. And step 2, we build it back up, slowly and strategically, so you can get back to doing all the things you love to do. Let's dive into step 1, calm it down. The key here is to think of yourself like a sound engineer at a mixing board. You don't have to turn the music off completely. You just have to adjust some of the levels. And we have 4 main faders we can play with.
These are your 4 dials. First is volume. That's just how much you're doing, sets and reps. Then there's range of motion. Maybe not going quite so deep on those push-ups for a bit. You can also change the speed. Slowing things down is often way less irritating. And of course, the obvious one, intensity. That's the weight on the bar. You can tweak any or all of these.
So, once you've played with those dials and calmed your symptoms down to a more manageable level, it's time for step 2, building it back up. This is all about gradually, and I mean gradually, reintroducing stress. Because that's what tells a tendon to get stronger. You can't just rest forever. And the order you do this in is super important. Think of it like a roadmap. First, you have to get your full, pain-free range of motion back. That's job number 1. Once you've got that, you can start to slowly add back a little weight. After that, you build up your volume. And the very last thing you bring back to the party is speed.
Now, managing the pain is great, but what about the long game? How do we stop this from just coming back over and over again? Well, that means we have to build a stronger, more resilient support system for the entire shoulder.
I like to think of these other muscles as the biceps tendon support crew. We want to strengthen your external rotators to help out the rotator cuff. Remember, that's the biceps' favorite partner in crime. And we also need to build up the muscles on the back of your shoulder to create a more stable foundation for the whole joint to work from. And here's a simple plan to get you started. For both of those groups, just aim for 2 to 3 sets of about 10 to 15 reps. Do them maybe 2 or 3 times a week. The goal here isn't to lift super heavy. It's all about quality, control, and building endurance.
Which of course leads us to the big question I know you're all wondering. Okay, but what about curls? When is it actually safe and smart to start doing bicep curls again and load that tendon on purpose?
You want to treat this like levels in a video game. You start on easy mode. That means supported curls, where your shoulder is flexed in front of you, like on a preacher curl bench. That's the least stressful position. Once that feels good, you move to normal mode, standard curls, with your arms by your side. And the final boss? That's curls with your shoulder stretched behind you, like on an incline bench. That's the most challenging position for that tendon.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Is this recovery a sprint or is it a marathon? Look, tendon rehab takes time. It just does. You're going to have good days and bad days. But the absolute key is being consistent with these principles. Because true long-term recovery is never, ever a sprint. It's a marathon that you win with patience.